You mentioned specifically a request that you got from the minister's office. Can you confirm that you did in fact get a request from the minister's office?
There was a request, yes.
From the Chief of Staff, Sita Astrovez, she made that request of you?
I believe so, yes.
And so you're saying that the commissioner was not telling the truth when she told her deputies that your office made this request. She was not telling the truth.
Something I was a party to, and I'm not going to speculate
Minister,
on
she also
her
said it
reasons for
at
saying what she
committee.
did.
She also said it at committee. So was she not telling the committee members here the truth?
Gang, what's up? Aaron here, Canadian Looney, hanging out with my girl Sweet Pea. Is lying. Somebody's lying in this one. We've got Brenda Lucki, former commissioner of the RCMP, with disgraceful former Minister of Public Safety, Bill Blair. He's a retired cop. He's a real loser. He's a lush, and it's a mess. They are lying for each other. Rachel Dancho, MP from Manitoba, is going to get to the bottom of it. Let's check this out, Sweet Pea. You're in for a treat, guys, if you enjoy watching the controversy and people lying straight to your face that think they're just above telling you the truth. You'll know they're lying. Take a peek at this.
Oh, yeah.
Minister, for being here. I think you know what I'm going to ask you, Minister, so let's just get right to it, shall we? In the audio recording, the Minister said that she flew up the flagpole because it was a request that from the minister's office. I shared with the minister that, in fact, it was going to be in the news release. Now, you've directly refuted this in committee, so how do you explain that?
Thank you very much, Ms. Dancho. I explained it with just the truth. The reality is, in all my conversations with the commissioner, at no time did I direct her, ask her, or even suggest that she release that information. At no time did the commissioner promise me that she was going to do it. I think you're referring to a conversation that the commissioner had with her subordinates, of which I was not a party. I can't and won't speculate on what was going on in that conversation.
You feel that
I can simply advise you that the fact is I never
truth.
directed her in that way.
She also said further along, she said yet again, not that the minister on the simplest of requests. So she's saying this word request several times. She also said that she got confirmation, that she confirmed to your office. Now you're saying that did not occur. She did not confirm to you or anyone in your office that this weapons info would be released. Is that correct?
That information was never shared with me. I can say that with absolute certainty because I recall very vividly and I would remind you, Mr. Dancho, on both April 25th and again on May 1st, when asked about the guns that were used in that offense, I made it very clear, very publicly in my response to the media that it was the sole responsibility of the RCMP.
She said at committee as well, she said, I asked her specifically, the Minister of Public Safety at the time, Bill Blair, specifically asked you if weapons used during the attack would be mentioned in the press conference of April 28th. She said yes. She then said, I asked her, so you confirmed to Minister Blair when he asked you if weapons information would be released in the press conference that yes, it would be, correct? She said yes to that question. So is Commissioner Lucki not telling the truth, Minister?
I think Commissioner Lucki has told the truth. And in fact, I would remind you that when she came before this committee, she was explicit and clear that at no time did she receive any direction from me, nor was there any interference with government, with the RCMP's decision to release that information.
I'm not asking about direction, Minister. I'm asking specifically about what Commissioner Lucki said. In the Mass Casualty Commission, she also said, I got asked if the media event would include the details of the guns, to which Rachel Young, the Crown prosecutor, asked, who were you asked by? I was asked by the Chief of Staff of the Minister. Were you aware that the Chief of Staff made this request of Commissioner Lucki?
I was not aware of that. Frankly, it was not something that I was at all concerned with. I believed, and as I believe now, it was entirely the purview of the RCMP to determine if and when that information should be released.
Minister, you're saying that your Chief of Staff acted solely on her own in making this request?
My understanding subsequently is that the Commissioner had indicated to both my Chief of Staff and the Deputy Minister that she'd made a decision to release that information, and then apparently it wasn't subsequently released.
So you were not familiar that your Chief of Staff made this request to Commissioner? Just to be clear, you were not aware that your Chief of Staff made the request to the Commissioner to release the gun information at the press conference? And
Ms. Dancho, I believe that's not correct. I do not believe that my Chief of Staff asked the Commissioner to release that information, and in fact that contradicts your assertion, contradicts the statement by the Commissioner, who's made it very clear that no one in government, neither myself nor anyone in government, asked her to do that. It's not my assertion,
Minister. It is the words of the Commissioner, Commissioner Lucki.
Ms. Demoff on a point of order.
Just with respect to the, out of respect for the interpreters, it's difficult for them to do their jobs when two people are talking at once.
May I continue?
Ask everyone to take turns. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Minister. So you're saying that the Commissioner was not telling the truth when she told her deputies that your office made this request. She was not telling the truth.
Conversation between the and her subordinates was not something I was a party to, and I'm not going to speculate
Minister,
on
she also
her
said it
reasons for
at
saying what she
committee.
did.
She also said it at committee. So was she not telling the committee members here the truth?
She has testified under oath, Ms. Dancho, that she was not directed or asked by any member of government, including myself, to release that
Minister,
information.
I'm not asking
and
about
that there was no
direction.
interference.
I'm asking very specifically about the request made from your chief of staff. She said it here at committee that happened. She said it at the Mass Casualty Commission. Are you saying that never happened, that the commissioner was not telling the truth?
And again, my understanding from the commissioner was that she had advised both the deputy minister and my chief that she had made a decision to release that information, and then subsequently was concerned that it had not been released.
Minister, but you're directly contradicting what the commissioner said in testimony here and at the Mass Casualty Commission. Are you not concerned that the commissioner is not telling the truth and that you're here as a result?
Ms. Dancho, all I can do is come before this committee and testify honestly about what I know and what happened, and that's what I'm doing.
So how do you explain the commissioner's words to the committee members here and the Mass Casualty? She made it very clear that the request came from your chief of staff. And just to be clear before you answer, everyone here is well aware of how the chief of staff and ministerial relationship works. I doubt very much that your chief of staff went rogue and made this request without your knowledge, let alone without telling you following that request being made. Are you expecting us to believe that, Minister, that your chief of staff
Two things. Whenever anybody
went
begins a
rogue?
question with "everybody knows," it's usually a good reminder that some people just simply don't know how things work.
I think
but
you're
let me
obfuscating a
also
bit,
clarify
Minister.
what the commissioner said and should be clarified by the commissioner. She's going to be appearing here in the next hour. I'd
Yes.
certainly invite you to put any questions about what the commissioner may have said. But I'm here to tell you about what I did and what I've said. And
I'm
I've done that
asking you
today.
about the commissioner's words. She's directly refuting you on the record. She did that over the summer at committee. She did that to the Mass Casualty Commission. Are you not concerned that her words directly refute yours? Is that not a concern to you, sir?
I don't believe that's true. Frankly,
Oh,
I've heard
okay,
a great
so
deal
she's
of,
not
of-
telling the
of
truth.
conjecture and
Thank you, Ms.
innuendo from you, Mr. both in Parliament and outside. And frankly, I don't believe what you are saying is true.
It's on the record.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Dancho.
What do you think, gang? Is Bill Blair being straight with Raquel Dancho right there? I don't think so, but watch this. This is former RCMP Commissioner Brenda Lucki. She was involved in many controversies and just issues of being incompetent. Watch her tell her version of the truth. It's wacky, man. Then we'll get back to Bill Blair to wrap it up. Bill Blair, what a mess. Anyways, back to the video.
Who cares?
Commissioner, for being here today. In the audio recording, you mentioned specifically a request that you got from the minister's office. Can you confirm that you did, in fact, get a request from the minister's office?
There was a request, yes.
From the chief of staff, Sita Astrovez, she made that request of you?
I believe so, yes.
And the request specifically was to share the weapons information at the April 28th press conference, correct?
Incorrect. The information was not to share the information, just simply a question if, in fact, the information of that press conference would include information about the weapons.
Okay, but she did, so she asked you whether it would be, is what you're saying.
If it would be, yes.
Okay, we've asked the minister several times in the hour before you if that was the case, and he flat out denied that that was real. He denied that his chief of staff would have done that. He denied that his office asked or even knew that you were going to be seeking this information being released. How do you respond to him denying what you said here today, what you said over the summer to us, and what you also said at your testimony at MCC? He's saying in essence, he's saying it's not true.
Well, first and foremost, I didn't deal a lot directly with the minister. I did in the beginning of the event, but more so I was dealing with various people in his staff as well as the Deputy Minister of Public Safety. There was a lot of back and forth. This was, like I said, it was crazy times. There was a lot of phone calls, a lot of different talks. I didn't have my staff with me for the most part because of COVID.
I understand, but the minister, sorry to interrupt, Commissioner, but the minister is saying that this did not happen, that his staff did not ask you to do this.
They didn't ask me to do anything. They just asked a simple question.
Right.
I provided one of the versions because there were several versions of the media event that day. And I provided one of the versions of the speaking notes of Superintendent Darren Campbell.
Yeah.
And in that, they asked
Thank
if,
you,
in fact,
Commissioner.
the information about the
I'm just gonna
weapons
need to interrupt
would
you.
be part of that.
Thank you very
media
much.
release.
You mentioned, though, like even your words now, like it was sort of a simple ask, is this going to be included? You kind of, to me, you seem that you're downplaying this a bit. But when you listen to the audio recording of that meeting, it's very clear that this was very important to you. In fact, you said that you would have to apologize to the minister for not, in essence, delivering on that. So I'm getting a bit of a tension here where you're saying it wasn't that big of a deal. She had this ask. I said, yes, it would be. But then it was a big deal to you, wasn't it? That's
No.
why you called that meeting. That entire audio recording was about this issue.
No, it wasn't about this issue. It was 90% of that meeting was about the issues regarding the flow of information from the start of this incident. There were several requests for several different kinds of information that I wasn't receiving in a timely manner. Some of the information wasn't completely accurate. As mentioned in the recording, I do say that I plan to have this meeting at an earlier time. There was 2 or 3 times or 1 or 2 times that I
Thank
would
you.
have wanted to have the meeting, but I was very conscious of.
Thank you. Commissioner, you mentioned you had to apologize to the minister. Did you speak to him and make that apology?
No, I think it was more to his office, and it was about an apology of misinformation. It was
you
simply about
apologized-
the fact that
Pardon me, just to clarify, you apologized to his chief of staff?
Yeah, I'm going to say somebody in his office. It was more than likely his chief of staff that I would
Okay.
have said, you know what, sorry, didn't get that.
Understood. So Zita Astrovez, the chief of staff, asks you whether you're going to share this information. From our perspective, that would be political pressure. The minister's office, which is the minister, his chief of staff, we know that if it's the minister's chief of staff, it's the minister asking for it. So if the minister's chief of staff is asking whether this information that you connected yourself to the OIC gun control policy coming forward, if that was going to be included in the press conference, to us, that's political pressure from the minister's office. That's the concern here, ma'am.
I appreciate your
And-
perception, but your perception is incorrect.
So, but you understand the perception that you were attempting to further the Liberal political agenda
Absolutely
concerning
not.
gun control, but you mentioned it specifically in the audio recording, ma'am. That's irrefutable. You
Absolutely
mentioned
not.
it in, are you denying that you mentioned it in the audio recording?
No, I talked about the gun legislation because if you recall, my very first media event was with Minister Blair. And 1/3 of that was about Nova Scotia. The other 2/3 was actually about gun legislation. Obviously, that was in the news quite a bit. So I was providing context for my staff. You'll also recall that there has been many requests. We had a rule when we provided information to the minister's office that nothing could be released until
Yes,
it was released
thank
by
you.
our folks.
Thank you
That's
very
why
much.
it was important what was released
there-
and what wouldn't be released at what time.
Again, you're kind of downplaying the urgency you had with wanting the weapons information released at that press conference, but yet Sharon Tessier, who is the RCMP commissioner or communications lady, she emailed her counterpart in Nova Scotia, quite insistent. She said, please tell me Darren is going to mention the guns. My phone is lighting up. She's saying this to her during the press conference, clearly indicating there's serious urgency from her, who she answers to you, correct? That why isn't this information being released? So if you're looking at this all together, Commissioner, it is very difficult for us to sort of believe the narrative that this wasn't that big a deal, that you weren't trying to further the Liberal political agenda, because in the audio recording, you make it evident, you make the connection. Your staff are really harassing the Nova Scotia staff, saying, why isn't this information being released? You understand the perception. That's why you're here today. And I may say the minister denied any of this. He denied that his chief of staff asked this of you. Don't you find that odd that he's saying what you said in committee here and in testimony was incorrect?
No, there was a lot of information going back and forth, and what I will say is that, it's important to note that there was a lot of requests of when are we going to release the names of the victims? When are we going to release the locations of each and every location of the deceased? There was lots of information because they could not speak about it until we did. So it wasn't unusual to ask if, in fact, information was going to be included. And the firearms was only one of several requests. So we're making it all about the firearms, but really it wasn't all about the firearms. And my meeting was just one example of many others. There was a chronology I was looking for. There was a map I was looking for. There was some timelines that I was looking for. These were all expectations that I had that had not been met. And the firearms was but one of those.
Thank you, Commissioner. I have to cut you off there. Thank you, Ms. Dancho.
Thank you. Did you communicate with the commissioner or anyone from your staff communicate with the commissioner or her staff using any apps, or was it just email, phone calls, text messages?
Oh, my communications primarily with the commissioner were direct, face-to-face, or sometimes...
What about your chief of staff? How was she
know.
communicating? You don't know.
I don't know. I will tell you the only apps I use is my parliamentary email account And I also use text messaging that's available on the
Okay.
phones provided.
Thank you very much. Did you do any prep work with the PMO in the lead up to this meeting?
No?
No? Did you do any prep work with Commissioner Lucky or her staff? Did you talk to her in the lead up to this?
My last direct conversation with the commissioner, I think you were present when we were at the musical ride
All right.
at the college. And I spoke briefly to the commissioner, and you were standing beside me at the time.
Minister, I'm going to ask you very specifically. So this is what Commissioner Lucky said in testimony at the MCC under oath, as you've said. I'm going to quote her. This is verbatim. I was asked questions from the Chief of Staff. Quote, will this be included? Are the details of firearms going to be included in this media event? End quote. I tell the Chief of Staff, yeah, you know what? It's going to be part of this big event. What's your response to that? Do you believe that she was lying about your Chief of Staff saying that?
No, but let me be very clear, though. The
You have
question
not
is
been clear, sir.
Well, perhaps not to you, Ms. Dancho, but if I may. What you have just read to us was not my Chief of Staff giving any direction to the Commissioner of RCMP, but just asking
Okay,
what the
so
RCMP
Minister,
have
pardon me,
decided
but
to
you're
do.
not, so you're not denying that your Chief of Staff asked her this. That's new.
Well, frankly, I don't know.
I'm
You're
glad
talking
that
about a
we've
conversation in which
established
I
that
was not
finally.
party, but what you have just read to me is not in any way giving direction to the RCMP.
We're not
It's
asking about
information for a
direction,
briefing.
Minister, and you're well aware of that. We're asking if pressure was put on the Commissioner, even subtly, from your office. If the Chief of Staff to the Minister of Public Safety, to whom the Commissioner is responsible to, if your Chief of Staff is speaking, it's on your behalf. And if she's asking the Commissioner, as you've just confirmed, you've not denied this, are those weapons going to be released? That is pressure. Do you not see that, Minister? That's why we are here today. That's why this saga has gone on for 5 months. A ministerial directive does not preclude political interference, Minister.
Well,
I will go on to ask a few
if
more
you don't want a
questions.
response to
She
that,
also said,
I have one.
She also said, she made it very clear, and my colleague alluded to this, that she had to apologize to you. She said, quote, this is what it says in the audio recording, not being able to come through for the minister on the simplest of requests. Further on, she says, quote, I already have a request sitting in my phone that the minister wants to speak with me, and I know exactly what it's going to be about. So she looks like she's very responsible to you for this information not being released in the press conference, and yet you're denying that this never happened. You denied on the record in committee that you didn't even know she was going after this information, and yet she's telling her staff, quite indignantly, in an audio recording, that she's going to have to apologize for you for failing to deliver that information publicly. And you're denying that that ever happened. You're expecting us to believe that, Minister.
It's the truth, Ms. Dancho, and let me
So
be...
Commissioner Lucky is lying then,
Ms. Dancho, could you let the minister answer, please?
if you would answer it.
Thank you very
Chair.
much, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the opportunity to respond to that. To be very clear, the Commissioner of the RCMP I never spoke to her about this, and she never apologized to me. What she said to her subordinates is something you can ask her about as to why she said it, but I can confirm for this committee that I did not ask the Commissioner to do this. She never promised me she would.
Yes, you've
there
said
was
that,
no
Minister.
call outstanding with me, and in fact, at no time has the Commissioner
So that
ever
call
offered
never
any kind of an
happened.
apology, because quite frankly, none was required.
So just to confirm, she was not telling the truth then. She was not telling the truth on that audio recording. You never called her after. You never spoke to her on April 28th. You never spoke to her on that day.
I have no recollection at all of ever having a conversation with her on that date or about that issue.
Did she ever make any apologies to you at any time during this saga in April 2020?
No?
She never made a single apology to you, because in the audio recording she said that would have been her 4th apology to you.
She did not apologize.
She's never apologized to you. So the Commissioner really was telling a long tale in this audio recording. Are you not concerned that the head of our RCMP is saying that many mistruths about you and your Chief of Staff, both on MCC testimony, in this committee, and to her subordinates as she's reprimanded? You have no concern that she was making that all up?
I can only come before this committee and tell the facts, which is the truth. She was not directed by me. The Commissioner has not apologized to me. It wasn't necessary for her to apologize for me because she did not do or fail to do anything
I will
that I'd
just
asked her, because I
conclude,
hadn't asked her
Mr.
to do
Chair, with
that.
my final 10 seconds. Again, Commissioner, Minister, we're not asking you about direction. We're asking you about political interference. Any request from your office would have been pressure, and that would have been political interference into the worst mass killing criminal investigation in Canadian history. And just on the record, you've denied all the words that she said to be true, and yet you have not fired her. I find that shocking. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Learn to live with the shock, Ms. Dancho, but the reality is that the Commissioner was not directed, and she's been forthright and truthful in her testimony that there was no interference, and that she received no direction from me or any member of this government. That's, in fact, the truth.
All right, gang, we're going to wrap it up right there, aren't we, Sweet Pea? If you want to catch another Raquel Dancho video, we've got that right here. That's it. My name's Aaron, Canadian Looney. Get your Canadian federal politics right here. We cover all kinds of federal Canadian politics, different ways, different looks. That's it. Like, share, subscribe. Catch you in the next video. Thank you for watching this one. Ciao from me and Sweet Pea. We're out. Let me know if you like the kitty cam. Ciao for now.